Republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Apologize for that. I thought it had turned off, but it's smooth and I don't know how to run it.
Technology is working.
It says it's off.
I'd have to read Russell's latest. First order of business would be to approve the minutes from last week.
Also moved, Mr. Chairman.
John Drew,
All second.
Tim seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Nothing miscellaneous. Looks like that was quick. Rhonda, you're up.
The city of Ridley, they contacted me and asked if I would come and see about waiving the landfill fees for 202 Main Street in Ridley. It's right on the corner as you're coming into town. It's definitely been an eyesore. It kind of has a old garage shed behind the house. It's very iffy. I'm sure it's going to be falling down one of these days. So it's definitely neat. You can look at the pictures and see it's just really not worth saving. Brian Ish did talk to me about, would I want to rehab it type thing, but the city came into possession of it, and so they're just asking for waiving on it.
The entire property,
Yes.
house and everything goes.
And yeah, really, we need to get that shed on.
Is that the one just on the inside of the curve for the highway?
Yes. They said that they would, the lots would be for sale, after it's done for building sites.
They plan on putting something back or you have?
They don't have anything this time. I think they want someone to, but they don't. Randy Brayville would be in the work too.
That's the old Gallagher place, right? You may not know
I
that.
don't know that.
You don't know
Sorry.
that. Okay, I know it. I'll move that we waive landfill fees for the city of Ridley.
I'll second that.
Bob moved, John seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
You want to keep the pictures or do you want me to take them?
That particular corner there would be bad if it was even a vacant lot, so you could see around the corner a little bit better. People shouldn't be driving very fast on that corner anyway.
Next up's Russell. Running a few minutes ahead.
Well, we got a minute? This paper I handed out to you. A little help, I did some research on it. I just picked 13 counties, no reason for anything. I knew what one of them, the answer would be, and that was Anderson County. I knew what their answer was going to be. And then I kind of picked surrounding counties and then just reached out to other counties where someone that I knew, with clerk and commissioner, and that's just what came up with. You've been asking me if I'd done anything, Don. Well, I got this far with it. I figure I may be going a little bit farther with it, so. That's what it is, something to think about. Read and say.
Warner, Russell.
Stuff that we've been doing's been pretty similar over the last several months. A lot of stuff we don't normally do, working with the coronavirus relief fund and those different committee meetings and here in Woodson County both. Working in Woodson County on a radio antenna tower purchase. A lot of stuff that's not normal, but lately it's been normal. As far as the monthly report, probably the biggest thing is the thing I just asked Donna to add is the report back from the recovery, state recovery office as far as our direct spending plan submittal. And in general, I think they liked what we sent in. If you look at page 6 of 7, in their conclusions, they talk about the things that they'd like to see changed a little bit. It says, the last paragraph there, subject to review the additional documentation requested with considerations regarding payroll expense, Coffee County may proceed with implementation of its CARES Act funding allocation as outlined in its provided reimbursement direct aid plan with the following exception. They misinterpreted, I think, how we submitted the Crosswinds thing, because we at no time intended to recommend that amount of money to Crosswinds. So, and then they have a question about the hospital on their X-ray portion of their request, and so I've shared that with James at the hospital, and he sent a more detailed explanation of it. And so I've sent that to the recovery office. And so we'll see what they say about that, or if the hospital will need to scrap that and replace that with something else, which originally they had well over $1 million of things to spend on, and they trimmed it down to 800 or something. So I don't think that'll be an issue as far as finding something to spend that money on. They may or may not be able to use it on the X-ray equipment that they want to use it on. We have a task force meeting tomorrow. So if anybody from the public is interested in attending, we'll be here tomorrow at 1:30 to go over this report and come up with more definitive recommendations for the commission to go ahead and start writing some checks, I think. Anybody have any questions?
You know, Russell, everything was totally involved in this whole program. You know, you and your team you put together needs to be thanks. Because with everything that needed to be done, the conclusion sounds like everything went through in great shape, other than some details that need to be worked out. So I know on behalf of myself and sure the commission appreciate everything you put together to make this thing work. Because $1.7 million is quite a bit of money.
Yep. Especially in a few weeks. Thanks.
Yeah.
I think that's all I really have, unless the commission has anything else, questions, otherwise.
I don't think anybody's got anything.
Okay.
It's pretty thorough. I mean, I got tied up in reading, I missed the 9 o'clock starting date, so. All right, informational, thank you.
Thanks.
Don't forget Lindsay.
Yeah, Wayne's not supposed to be till 9:30, so. That'll be fine, unless Wayne's in the area, I guess. Yes, that's right. Now we'll see how it goes. There's where, individuals on the agenda can say how much time they may or may not need with helping this week. We do have a couple of members on the Housing Authority Board. If I remember right, they both indicated they wish to remain, is that correct?
That they would serve again if you guys would.
Would serve again if we wished. Frank Rush and Mike Skellen. Frank's in my district, Mike would be yours.
Well, yes and no. He wasn't appointed from my district. He At one time, I had 3 of them from my district. So I think Fred appointed him to fill his district years ago, before I was here, I think.
That's true.
So he's really not my appointee.
Okay. So do we,
And I've said every year, I'm fine if you guys want to appoint somebody from up in the Lebo area, I'm fine with that. You guys do what you want to do. I had 3 at one time, all 3 of them lived within 3 miles of each other out in a strong area. Bill still lives.
Which ward is this on?
housing authority?
So they'll be here in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, I probably should have rethought that one, but we'll be up on it. So, yeah, I mean, it just depends on if we want to. Frank's in my district. Something about that. We don't have to decide right now.
Bill Parker lives in my district. Actually, Aaron Copeland.
Let's
He replaced someone that was in the person that I actually appointed from my district, so I guess it doesn't matter how you want to do it. It would be nice to get them strung out around the county, though.
It would be.
If you'd like, we can put an ad in the newspaper and take applications, but that's up to you guys.
Something about we don't have to decide now. Make a decision by the end of the week.
It's not until October 26th or something
Oh,
to
okay.
expire, so you have a little time.
We have several of them coming up 12/31, so we'll have, there's probably 7 or 8 that need to be addressed.
Maybe we could just put it in a generic notice in the paper that we have quite a few boards that are coming up. Anybody interested in serving, we could do that. But
That'd be a good idea.
And list the boards, actually.
Yeah.
List the boards.
I also know that we had a person a couple of years ago interested in serving on board, hasn't been showing up. So, but I think zoning will take care of that one.
Right.
They think they're in trouble.
You are.
They probably should be.
No.
Or,
I think it's Sheila. I didn't see
Oh,
that.
there you
Is Marilyn here yet?
yeah,
Okay. thank you.
Russell didn't take as much time as needed, and Wayne's not here, so if it's here close by,
Okay, I'm gonna give the rest of my staff a moment to get down here. So,
have any updates for us.
I do. So we're at 103. Oh, thank you. We are at 103 cases right now. We just got 2 fresh ones hot off the press this morning. So we've been busy with that since we got
Is
here.
that active or just total?
Oh, no, since
Since it began?
March, yes.
Okay.
We
We got active now.
active, we're,
That's a figure we have to do this morning.
is that minusing 3
Yeah.
recoveries today?
10.
10.
10 now.
10.
Okay.
So far, we haven't made it through all of our calls yet, so roughly 10 active right now. We've just been hard at it, and I just really wanted to bring in staff today so you could see the faces of the people that have been doing emergency response for 6 months. In my time here, it's been unheard of that we would be responding to an emergency for this length of time. But these folks have missed family time, they've missed family gatherings, they've missed church, they've missed celebrations. They have worked evenings, nights, weekends for 6 months. And I think that needs to be recognized, not only by me, but the rest of our county. I think they need to see the faces of the folks that are doing this very, very difficult work, day in and day out. And being told that this is indefinite for us, I just feel like we need a little bit of joy and a little bit of celebration and recognition that they have been amazing throughout this process. So I wanted to bring you all here to thank you for your support.
I don't want to feel like to put them on display, but the camera's here, so everyone out in the county can see who the crew is that's been doing all this. Thank you.
Yeah, so Lindsay Byer, mom of 3. Tina, mom of 6, 7, and a grandchild. Katie Rich, mom of 2. Jennifer, mom of 2, mom of 2, right? Carrie, mom of 2, and Carl, dad of 3, granddad of 1.
Right.
And Marilyn Eccles, she's grandma, or mom of 2, grandma of 2. So we've put in a lot of time and effort, and it doesn't go unnoticed, guys. You guys are awesome.
And it hasn't gone on. Appreciation part, and the commission is buying you guys lunch today from wherever you wish.
Oh, thank you. So thank you guys.
I'll make that motion for the commission to buy lunch from wherever.
I will second that motion.
I will second.
And I just know, 3 of those girls are from my district.
So thank you. I just thank you for allowing me to recognize the hard work, and who knows how many more months of this we have to go, but we're in it together, and thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
Yep. That way it'll vibrate off the table. Well,
We're still 15, I need all our plates.
here we go.
Everything Wayne has on the agenda, it'll probably be 40 minutes.
Lindsay, do you want to schedule that? Bring us back in. Motion. I guess the motion to buy the girls' lunch back by the.
Spell work.
I assume nobody had it for it.
If not, that'd be your problem.
I made a motion, Bob seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good. I guess I don't have anything.
And that's not out of line. Whenever Road and Bridge is moving ice or moving snow, we buy their lunches all the time. So
Yeah.
that's not out of line one bit.
Last year we buying breakfast, we want buying breakfast. Yeah. So it's agreed we have Donna work up some, have Donna work up something to put in paper for the boards that are coming vacant, possible vacant. We'll list those boards and then. Everybody agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Hey, you might as well put the ones that are coming due 12/30, because that'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, we'll
So
list,
that'd be probably a total of 7, 8, 9, there's quite a few of them.
yeah, we'll list the board and the day it's open and
Okay.
like that maybe.
Just so you guys will know, the fire board has to be by district. Only one district can be out of place. In other words, it looks like District 3 and District 4 will have to reappoint
I don't know what that's.
someone from their district, because I already have 2 from my district. You can only have one out of place on fire board.
Yeah, there's not a representative from District 2, Dawn.
Yeah, there's none there for two.
I know Terry has kind of been your representative, but he lives in Bob's district.
He's not up for 2 years.
It looks like the tourism board and the housing authority. Two on the fire.
You're fine, Bob.
Hospital board has 3.
I went over that one. Yes, it does.
Not the only thing, depending on how big it is. Yeah, I was gonna say, Kate Williams is an option. I mean, it's cost, but it's really, will require council approval. Okay, I appreciate it. Right. Okay, thank you.
Mark? Okay, is that right? Let us get on there. Well, see if I can slow him down. I heard that.
Oh, okay.
No book to sign?
Just up here.
Oh, okay, it's up there. All right.
See, that's up there.
Good morning.
Morning, Wayne.
Morning. I think I left my coffee cup there last time. I won't do it this time. We doing okay for time, Chairman? Yeah, we're running ahead, so. Okay.
I may have a few topics. I have a special issue. I know it's a small amount, it's $6, but it's part of a permit that basically the state for the fuel tax reimbursements. And so it's a registration that needs to be paid, so that's why we have that one. So no road permits, one zoning permit, and the planning board. I misspoke here last week, but the planning board meeting is actually scheduled for this Wednesday, September 16th at 7. Landfill, just go ahead and give the report on the landfill as well. At this point is the liner folks are planning to be here about the middle of the week, about Wednesday or so. And we did pick up 4 rolls of fabric, geotextile fabric, from Ham Construction, Ham Waste Services actually, and out of Lawrence. And so we picked up 4 rolls, and we'll be ready for the liner folks for the final installation of the fabric. And so that's, as I said, about Wednesday. The next one is, what I have is motions, to move right into motions, and that would be the CP2s. So as we had approval and made selection for employees, current employees, to move to different positions, one being Nathan Watts, moving to the assistant fleet, from asphalt to assistant fleet, and then the other one is Casey Holback is moving from tradesman to truck crew. So. And so that's motion number 33, and I apologize for skipping and 44 for those 2.
So, motion 2020-33, move to review and approve the CP2 for Nathan Watts, equipment operator, full-time, transferring positions as equipment operator from the asphalt crew to the assistant fleet crew within the same department, subject to regular IPP wage classification to remain the same at MB2 with a wage of $16.97, effective 9/14/2020.
So moved.
Donna moved,
All second.
Tim second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, and then the next one, if, I don't know how you wanted to do that one, Tom. Do we want to jump to 44, or
That's fine,
do you want to?
that's fine.
Okay,
I caught on.
okay. I didn't know if you wanted to jump to that. If you wanted to jump to that one, that would be Casey Holback, and then we can jump to visit about the compactor.
You got it. So, motion 2020-44, move to review and approve CP2 for Casey Holbeck, truck driver, full-time, transferring positions from tradesman in the special bridge crew to truck driver in the truck crew within the same department, subject to regular IPP wage classifications to remain the same at MB4 with a wage of 19.17, effective 9/14/2020.
Also move.
Bob has moved,
I'll second.
Brett has seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. So to move on to what we have is the compactor for the landfill. And so with that one is, we started the discussion on the compactor, and we started that back in May. And so we initially had budgeted close to $800,000, well, $800,000 is what we had budgeted for the capital reserve fund to replace the compactor. It's about 15 years old. And so with that, Jeff was able to find basically a compactor that's a rebuilt. And so everything except the steel was, for the most part, was rebuilt on this piece of equipment. We were expecting a cost somewhere around the $420,000. And so, and we were waiting for what the actual cost would be after the rebuild was completed. And so with that, that's why we're coming back today, is the machine is basically ready. And it was inspected here last week. And so what we'd like to do is go ahead and move forward on basically is making that purchase. Now, with that being said, that would also require the first motion, which is A, for disposal of the existing compactor. And then the next motion would be the agreement to purchase the compactor that was refurbished.
And it's ready to go.
And it's ready to go, except for a backup camera that they would install. That would be one of the things that we're needing to have them do on this.
Well, motion A probably needs to be rewritten. It says, and property will be published on September 17, 2020 and September 17, 2020.
Kind of missed a week there, didn't we?
Yeah, we probably need to change one of those numbers.
Let's do the second one to the 24th. How's that?
24th?
24th.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, can you say anything else? I just don't want to interrupt you.
No, that's pretty much it, unless you have some questions. I mean, we did pay up a little bit for the warranty. We wanted to get the 5-year, 6,000 hour powertrain and hydraulic warranty. We are also paying up a little bit for the camera. Camera obviously would be safety, as you've seen these large pieces of equipment, very difficult to see behind you. And so that's basically the values to it. Also, we have a trade-in. They started out just a little bit lower, but they did raise the price. And, you know, it's $25,000 is the trade-in, is what we're looking at for this compactor. So, so that's really it, unless you have any questions.
You talk about the extended warranty. What's the cost of that extended warranty?
The cost of the extended warranty is, right there is $11,482. I have it part of the motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that per year or is that for the full 5 years?
No, that would be for the full. Yes,
That's the question.
yes.
So
That would be now also in that warranty is that also includes their travel costs too, which is a big one. So, otherwise we'd be hit a couple $100 each time.
It take much to add up to 11,000.
well, on that high dollar piece of equipment for 11,000 for 5 years, if something's gonna go wrong, you're gonna know in that time frame.
Yes, sir.
Chances are.
Any other discussion? If not, motion 2020-35, based upon the recommendation of the county engineer and approval of the county attorney as to form, we have to find that 1 2005 FOMAG 672 RB landfill compactor, serial number ending in 1020, is no longer required and or cannot be prudently be used for public purposes of Coffee County, and as such should be disposed by a trade to Foley Equipment, Chinook, Kansas for $25,000. Notice of board's intention to dispose of said property will be published on September 17, 2020 and September 24th in the official county newspaper.
Do you have one other question?
Is that
Maybe we, or wait for a motion. Did we buy that Bomag new in 2005?
That's what I understand. Yes, sir.
So we've used it for 15 years.
Yes.
So that's probably not a bad deal then.
No, it's not. It's not. It served us well, but as you recall too, through the years, it has blown the turbo at least twice that I recall. And I think we've been through one of the cylinder heads once or twice since then as well. So it's had some repairs onto it. So.
I'll make that motion.
Fred has moved. Any second?
I'll second.
Tim is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
And it is a requirement from KDHE to have a piece of equipment of that size for our compaction. So it is one of our requirements as far as operations of the landfill. So We know it's a pretty big ticket number, but
Well, we had 800,000 budgeted, we saved a little.
we have, yes.
So motion 2020-35B, should have said A on the first one, I apologize, but this one would be B. Based upon the commission action of May 18, 2020, meeting with the approved motion of item number 7, for the agreement purchase of one used remanufactured with certified powertrain 2008 Caterpillar Model 826H landfill compactor for the final purchase terms. With the recommendation of the county engineer and approval of the county attorney, move to approve the final purchase price submitted by Foley Equipment, Chanute, Kansas, for one certified powertrain plus rebuilt Caterpillar 826H landfill compactor in the amount of $434,482, less trade-in value of $25,000 from the total purchase price of $409,482. Net purchase reflects FOB County Shop $11,482 for extended warranty of 5 years, 6,000 hour powertrain and hydraulic warranty, including travel costs, and $3,000 for one backup camera installed. And direct the county engineer to sign all documents related thereto. Funds to be paid from the general fund, capital improvement reserve fund.
Actually, can I make a correction to that?
Sure.
It would just be the capital improvement reserve fund. There's no capital improvement general.
So just take out the general fund in the front?
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you.
So as amended, need a motion?
So moved.
Don has moved,
All second.
Tim has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. The next one is, as you have worked with me on 44, we've taken care of that. 48 and 49 is now to fill those positions, and this is in-house and outside discipline. Before, the previous one was to allow movement within in-house only, but this one here also too is there will be positions that will have to come from the outside at some point. This would allow me to advertise for those. Keeping in mind, this does not raise our numbers. These are just filling current vacant positions. That's where we're at for both of them.
Any discussion on that? Motion 2020-48, based on the recommendation of the county engineer, move to approve the request for authorization to advertise and hire one full-time equipment operator. No new position is being added. This request will only fill a current vacant position within the department.
I'll move.
Brett has moved,
I'll second
Don has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
it. Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. 2020-49, based upon the recommendation of the county engineer, move to approve the request for authorization to advertise and hire one full-time tradesman. No new position is being added. This request will only fill a current vacant position within the department.
So moved.
Don has moved.
All second.
Tim has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. The next one I have would be construction zone. As we had listed out several locations of projects as intended for this week, weather permitting. One of the ones I would point on is our fog seal. What we have is, or for our paving crew, we actually have several activities that's going on the asphalt. One would be the entrance or the approach there on Old Highway 50 on the bridge that we would actually add some hot mix in that particular area to fix. So we do have a few locations such as that. Then we're looking to do fog seal about the middle of the week. And so hopefully we would be able to start our fog seal program. Now, our fog seal program too will be somewhat scaled back a little bit because of timing. At this point, as we all know that we're in the middle of the month, it takes at least 2 weeks for fog seal to cure enough to be able to put striping on it. And so at this point, for our fog seal to be laid or placed, we would require an additional 2 more weeks before we could even do our striping. So now we're running into the next month, which would be October. And so there will be some locations that's going to be scaled back, but and I believe I spoke about this here last week, is what we'd end up doing is taking our major routes, look at our major routes first and try to address those. So give you an example. One of them is going to be Reaper Lane, south of Leroy. That's going to be the first location. We do have a little chip seal left there in Leroy to do, but Reaper Lane would be our first for our fog seal. And then after that, we're going to focus on the main roads such as 12 and then also Immer. And we will see what we can as far as up there on 16th by Jacobs Creek, and then also Fauna from 12th to 16th. Those are going to be the main ones we're going to try to focus on. Those are chip seals that we've already had done this year, but some of the others may not be fog sealed. For example, like Reaper right there at Leroy, that particular one may not be fog sealed, that 1 mile going from 58 going north. But we'll do what we can, as it takes a little bit of time for that fog seal to cure and be ready for our striping. Our striping actually is going to start the end of the month. His schedule places him in this county or in this area at the end of the month, so he would not even be able to stripe our fog seals, but he will be focusing on the hot mix projects and then also the areas that we do not plan on doing the fog seal at this point. And so those would be the areas we'll give him first, and then he'll come back, and that'll be in October. He'll come back and actually do the striping at that point. So hopefully weather will hold and temperatures will continue to be up there that we could do that activity. So mowing, we're continuing to mow back or mow along our edges. We'll be mowing back as per policy. This is what we talked about before. It's the first part of October is when we start doing our mow back. Right now, we're mowing back or had mowed back the areas that we did not mow back last year. Other than that, we're still doing one swath along the edges. So. Anything else on construction zone? If not, then just give you an update on the 6 bridges. They were finished. We're actually going to be I will be doing a punch list on those walk through this week. And so that'd be one of the activities we're going to go through, and I'll be working with the engineer and going through all the 6 bridges.
We retained an inspector for those, did we not?
Yes, we did. Yeah, BG Consultants had an inspector. They also were the ones that had done the construction plans for that particular one. So I also met with Cook, Platte, and Strobel regarding community planning. And so just to give you an idea, this is something we had visited about, how we can have these meetings. And one of the things that came up was, well, they could meet with the city councils, would be one of the first meetings. He will have a contract, Cook, Platte, and Strobel will have a contract here next week, and I'm going to encourage him to come up and visit with you with the contract, and then that way you can also give him a little perspective of how we can basically get the information out and how we can receive information from the community. And so I'm going to start with that, is have him come up here next week and visit with you. And then at that point, he's gonna have some ideas how he can visit with the communities prior to meeting with the city councils. So we'll do that one as well. The Corps of Engineers had requested a patch repair. They initially said that they had a spending limit up to $2,500. He had emailed me back and said his spending limit was actually corrected to only $2,000. Our estimate right now is around $2,000 and just rounding up $2,200. At this point, I have not had a chance to visit with him to let him know that our numbers are going to be higher than what his spending ability is. So at that point, he's going to either have to make a decision to say yes or no, or he's going to have to ask the commission to waive the additional fee. But that would not be something I'd be able to do. So I'd leave that up to him to have a discussion with you. But also too, it kind of messes our schedule up because we're doing that asphalt patching right now. And we would also be able to do that asphalt patching this week as well. As I visit Mount Old Highway 50 up there on the bridge approach, is we'd also be able to do that this week as well. So mine is without a motion, would you entertain to, if it was over that $2,000? Now, once again, this is just an estimate. I don't know what our time would actually be. But if it was over that $2,000, would that be something that you'd waive, or you say, no, it's going to be whatever our cost is? Because that's the decision he's going to have to be able to make.
I think you're kind of trying to you're putting us on a spot to commit to something before we even know what the answer is. So
yeah,
I'm not going to answer one way or another. But you did make a comment that he said he would have an employer or two there to work. Maybe they could do a little more prep work than what they anticipated. And if the price is up a little bit, maybe get it down a little bit when we do come in, if it's going to go over their budget. Might be part of your discussion with them.
Okay. All right. I'll leave it at that. I'll have that discussion with him, and keeping in mind of what his spending limits are and where we would have to be as far as reimbursed. So I'll leave that one. The next one is just on our 2020 construction projects. We have several locations that we still have planned, proposed, actually gravel on. And that would be, actually Ryan had made up a map and discussion that he's had with Jeff as well to be able to organize or schedule this, put it on a calendar. But we have approximately about 20 miles of gravel that we had proposed. So, you know, if you look in your book, there's still about 20 miles of gravel that we're proposing throughout the county. And Tim, I don't know if you got a book that's done, I'll get you one at some point soon. But what we have is, just to let you know, we are going to be working on those projects as we're winding down our chip seal. We'll also be able to release the trucks and then be able to place some of the gravel out there. The one over on Trefoil, for example, we had initially from 2 to 3. We're going to reevaluate that to see if there's more that needs to be done. Sometimes the gravel is underneath the mud. You just have to scrape it up to find it, to bring it back up. But we'll be looking at those as well, and we'll be adding that schedule. But just to let folks know that we do have several miles of gravel that we're still trying to add. We've just been in the process of our construction, and so we've not been able to add the gravel that we had proposed for our 2020 projects. So. And at this point, that's all I can think of to visit with you about.
You got a time frame on maybe moving equipment into Matthias Lake project?
Yes. Initially what we had was, as we're finishing up the landfill, that we would be moving in. We also noticed too that the corn is still out there as we're trying to do some of the ditch work over on Oxen, that we're needing to actually take that dirt and move it back up on the fields. And so we're giving them about 2 more weeks to be able to get the corn out. And then at that point,
on the elevator, send it up.
then at that point, we'll start doing that work out there on Matthias. We already have the The precast boxes, we're working with the supplier on those to get those delivered. And then we'll be setting those, and then we'll be doing the excavation work around Matthias. So you should see something soon on that one.
Anybody have anything else?
Well, then I have, the last one I have would be Old 50, would be to follow up on the discussion on Old 50. To come back to let you know, if we grind up the edges on Old 50, some of the discussion that we had here last week, if we grind up the edges on Old 50, that would be, say, option 1. Then in that option is, initially I thought the number would be a little higher, but having visited with the contractor to see where he's at, to be able to supply a 4-foot mill, a blade, a roller, even a broom to do the work, and that'd be 7 miles up and 7 miles back. Somewhere around $50,000 is the ballpark estimate, okay? Now, would that add or do any prep for if we were going to do construction onto it? No, it would not, because what we're doing here is we're definitely making it safer along the edges. But as I said here last week too, even though we cut along those edges, you still can see asphalt actually coming into the lane that's coming out. That's basically spalling out. So you're still going to have a rough edge along Old Highway 50, even when you do the milling. But if you're doing the cement treated base, as we talked about, we would actually have to mill deeper at that point to be able to put the cement treated base in. That I don't believe is going to be an option for us this year. I believe it's too late in the season to be able to start that. But the other option would be is to actually put striping down the center. That would be, now we already have striping now, but what we would do is actually we would freshen up the striping down the center, and we could reduce the speed limit and put up construction zones, or a construction zone between 75 and Fauna. And what that amounts to is you would drop the speed down to 45, and you would show signs and post it and put cones along the edges, basically for edge construction. You see this on 35 going on right now, is basically what they have is shoulder work, and they have inner inner work done. So that is another option, is to help with safety, is to sign it for shoulder work construction and then post it accordingly. And that would not do any of the grinding as far as option 1. That would just actually get it ready or prepped perhaps for the spring, if that's a project that you'd want to take on.
I think we should go ahead and grind it, try to make it safe for this winter. I mean, get it up there. Those shoulders are eventually going to have to come off no matter what you do. So I think we should just go ahead with it instead of trying to patch it up, do this and do that. Let's get busy with trying to make it safe.
Do they put a compound with that when they mill it to, so it'll solidify a little bit, on what's right word, solidify that 4-foot stretch, or is it going to remain soft?
We won't.
Even if they pack it, it's still not going to be solid when we get freezing thaw.
No, there wouldn't be anything added for that 50,000. Yeah, the only thing that you could do would be to add a calcium type product, a lime type product, but lime wouldn't necessarily work in there. And then you could use or the cement treated base, but that's not adding any of the chemicals. The only binding that we would get would be the existing clays and fines that you already have into the shouldering. So that way, what we do there is basically make sure that we have moist conditions for the shouldering for compaction. But it would work its way loose as traffic drives over it.
You know, we truly recognize we got an issue there. If we do that step, and I think something needs to be done, does that reduce our liability? Or does it reduce any at all? We recognize we got an issue. Just by doing that, what's that do to our liability?
Well, the overall is to maintain road safety. What you have is, if you take the milling of the edges, you're gonna reduce the width, and then you still have some spalling that's coming out on the edge. So traffic is still gonna ride along that, since it's only gonna be a 10-foot lane, traffic is still gonna ride along that edge, where you're gonna still have some asphalt spalling that's gonna occur. So there will be actually those potholes that will continue to develop, and actually they may even get worse because traffic will be riding along that edge. And then what you're gonna find too is the graveling, or the gravel then, at that point will continue to work its way free. The closer you get the gravel to the vehicle, the edge of the vehicle just basically going down it, you can always see basically the fines blowing away from the shoulder is what's happening. Then you can also see too, the rain is coming back and washing the fines out. Once all that occurs and the wheels rolling over it too, then you start creating the potholes and the edge drop-offs and different things like that, which occur throughout the state. But ultimately, that's what you do. But if your pavement's not wide enough, you're gonna have those edges that's gonna occur, as I described. So that's what you're gonna have. Are you gonna make it safer? What you're doing is you're moving that edge line from being out in a spalled area that's pretty much not certain to be smooth. There's gonna be areas that are smooth that were repaired. There's gonna be areas that are gonna be potholes and such as that. You're removing that. And so, yes, you are making it safer in that sense, but you are also narrowing the road. So you're also too making it, and that was that study that I'd shown, about a 10% reduction of safety because you're narrowing the road too. But a person could come back and argue, well, it's not safe now as wide as it is because of all the fault areas. So it's a difficult answer. So the only answer that I would have is what you have to do is you have to reduce speed if you want to increase safety. And then two, you have to place signs, place basically devices, which would be like your cones, to identify that this is an edge that you need to stay away from. So you need to stay inside of it as much as possible. And that would be placing cones, placing construction zones, shoulder work and different things like that. It would increase. But I'd also say too, the number one thing that's going to improve safety is going to be the driver. I mean, it's going to be driver awareness, no matter where they drive, not just Old Highway 50, but it's going to be part of that.
I do know, as far as I'm concerned, it's, given the fact that it's the number 2 travel county road in the county, I'm in favor of improving the safety of that, even if it means widening. I know it's gonna come with a cost, but I don't, you can't put a number on safety in my opinion. I know it's a county road, but so's 12, so's Shetland, so all our other paved roads, we seem to put a fair amount of money into those. I think reducing the speed limit, in my opinion, and at least getting those shoulders where it's not so dangerous would probably be my take on it for now. I mean, I would be in favor of cement treated base. I mean, agree, it's getting too late in the year to head that direction, but we ought to put it at the forefront of our thoughts for next year, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Us being commissioners, are we the one that needs to dictate the speed limit on that? Or is that a call for you and the sheriff's department?
Well, when we regulate traffic, so you know it's basically black on white.
That'd be your call.
Then, well, what it would amount to is regulation of traffic is through a resolution that goes to the commission to sign. What I can do on this as well is I can do a construction zone. And on this particular one, what I'd introduce would be construction zone that basically, since we don't have a project, what I would do is bring it before the commission for a motion for approval of a construction zone on Old Highway 50. That way, that would give me enough authority and also the sheriff's department enough authority to show that the governing body had recognized a construction zone posting at 45. That's how you basically move forward on that. So I'm going to give you another scenario. When I was on the guardrail project, that was already an approved project. So my construction zone basically was part of the project. And so you did not require a separate motion for that. You approved the project. So long story short, it's just education more than anything else. I would bring something back to you for a construction zone approval for 45. That would be the answer.
I've kind of run that idea by some people in my area and they're in favor of that.
Lowering the limit, you mean?
Till we can get it fixed in a better way.
They were in favor of it.
Until we can get it fixed in a better way.
So the edges would remain the same in that option, but we would actually put cones out there. Okay, so we would put cones, we would put signs that would lower the speed limit posting, showing that we have shoulder work underway.
You still proceed with grinding those shoulders though?
Not at that particular one. What I would do there is just actually just set it up as a construction zone, so you'd approve a construction
It'll
zone.
be a while before you get a contractor in to grind that anyway. Guessing.
If we did the option one, which would be the grinding, then I would have to come in and get a motion for bidding.
That's what I mean. So,
Yeah. And then that would take, as you said, you know, I'm over my 20,000. I'd be over my 20,000, so that'd take a month.
right.
And then what you're doing is, winter's not gonna necessarily be a factor other than the compaction. So when I try to blade it back and compact it, then the freeze thaw could be an issue onto it. But that'd be option one. Option two would be to place it in a construction zone. That would actually allow me to place the cones, the signs, and posting to the speed limits. And is the sheriff's office here?
Yeah.
Randy, is that correct? If I had a motion that basically approved a construction zone for a speed limit of 45, would that be enforceable for?
It would, because in Kansas, all county roads are roads in Kansas, unless otherwise posted, are 55 miles an hour, which if you do that signage at 45, the only thing I would recommend is periodically signage it at 45, because you have like Old 75 and some other roads that if somebody gets on the road and goes in one direction or another and they don't, you see what I'm saying? Because if you just have it at, you know, one end, the beginning and the end or whatever at the ends, that designated at 45, then it's hard to enforce it in the middle because there's so many places people can pull onto that road. So I would at least signage it in multiple locations. Then it's a lot easier to enforce and stuff. But now the fines would not double, you know, in construction zones. They do double if you signage it, that the fines double and it's an active work zone. So if you're just putting the cones out and putting the signage up, then it would just be normal citations if somebody were to get a citation for speeding.
Okay.
And it would be 45 because you'd have it posted.
Now that would be on our orange sign, so it would be black on orange.
Doesn't
Okay.
matter.
All right. So that would be the option to improve safety, would be to post it and then place the cones, and then the signage for basically shoulder work.
I'm gonna support option one of grinding the shoulders and putting it back and letting people use common sense.
Okay. Now, option two, I mean, that's part of my motions here, Bob. You'll see I have option one and option two. Option two is, I didn't have the motion for the construction zone, which we can add. But what I have the motion for is actually for striking, the center line striking that I discussed previously. Part of this is not only going to be the signage and the cones, but it's also going to actually I want to bring up that center line because you won't have the edges. What we're going to do is we're actually going to take those white lines and then just open up a nozzle on our distributor truck and just spray those white lines off. So all you have would be a center line striking. You wouldn't have edging. That way you can keep traffic focused on the center as much as possible and keep them off those edges. It's all part of the construction process, the construction zone process. So with that, what I have is, this would be informal bids for centerline striping only. Sorry, Donna. For option 2, option 1 is in there as Bob had visited about, so option 1 is available too. But what I would do is I'd come back next week with the informal bids and then have the motion to place it as a construction zone and then start setting that up.
And why couldn't we put center line striping in on option 1?
You can.
I mean, to me, if you're gonna put, if the center line is that important for one, it ought to be that important for the other.
It can.
Exactly.
Yes, yes, sir. So either one, option 1 or option 2, is the pavement striping. And so if you'd like to move forward with that one and then still have construction, then still have discussion on the other, which would be placing in the construction zone.
Wayne, in your opinion, which option do we end up with the best end value, I guess I'm gonna put?
Well, Commissioner, that's a good question. That's a very good question, and probably the best one that we're trying to resolve right now. As we're looking at it, and I'm just making an assumption. If we're looking at doing the reconstruction on the shouldering for spring, we would take the money that we already have in our asphalt fund, which is, and I didn't have a chance to double check it, which is close to or near almost $500,000. We would take that money and then actually roll it into next year's asphalt fund, add it to the asphalt fund. Then it could be a project for next year, which would be spring. If we do that, then the best option, I would say, would be to go ahead and prep it ready for that construction. Meaning that we would have signs, we'd have notifications, we would have speed reduction. Now, why do I say that? Because if you just grind the edges right now, and you know you're gonna have a construction project come spring, you're not gaining anything with value with what you're grinding. Yes, you are taking those edges off. Yes, you are removing some of that. But when I'm basically taking that edge line and I'm removing the edge line, then that edge line or that edge does no longer exist. Means that basically you only have a center line road, you don't have edges. So you have to actually follow your vehicle more towards the center of the road as much as possible. That's the reason why. You will find a few roads like that. If you travel, say, Reaper Road going north out of the county, you will actually find it to be only a center line stripe road, okay? You will find in Iola, if you go north out of town, which was the old 169, that's only a center line stripe road. But you'll also find too, they have edge problems. And that's the reason why you place only a center line stripe is when you have edge problems, you don't want them to follow the edge. Otherwise, when you put an edge line out there, there's an expectation to say that you can run along that edge as much as possible, and that's what they try to do.
Okay, let's go back to the question, and the answer is always safety. It would grinding it up and actually putting a shoulder on it be safer, especially in the winter. If somebody went off, at least they have the shoulder there instead of a big old hole they're going into. I mean, safety has always been the answer, but that wasn't the answer you said was most important. It was what it was going to cost us. So can you put a price on safety then?
Would not put a price on safety. If that was not the intended to basically put cost above safety in any means. The intent is to say, okay, what is the options of value? Safety is always number one. What we're going to find too is if we grind it and we say, okay, let's go ahead and grind it, that does add a layer of safety because if the edge basically have the potholes and different things like that, you're going to have that layer of safety that you're going to improve on. But I would still recommend that you would also place it in a construction zone with the intent, if your intention is to have a spring project, I'd also say still reduce the speed, because even if I grind this at this point, my narrow road does not make it safer. My edges are still peeling off on the lane itself. So I'm still gonna have, even along that, even if I grind that up, I'm still gonna have that lane to still have, potholes develop along that edge. That's gonna be inside that 10-foot lane.
There's no way you're gonna eliminate those potholes. I drove, 4 miles of it the other day, and there's places along the edge that need to be fixed now. And there's always gonna be places, but you mentioned you could regrind it for $50,000 and lay it back for 14 miles.
Yes, sir.
I'm not saying this is what I'd support, but go ahead and put a center line up and go ahead and put your construction signs and your cones up. Do the whole project and hopefully make people more and reduce it. I think you need to reduce the speed just because of the width and the situation. But make it as safe as you possibly can, make everybody totally aware of it. I know we're gonna be spending $50,000, you can't recover next year. But I think we need to do everything we can to make that thing as safe as we can for the next 6 to 8 months. We know it'll be April before you get a crew in there to do what probably needs to be done next year. And that's a big project again.
So you're saying that if we use option 1 and then reduce the speed on it, that'll be the safest answer.
That is correct, sir.
And that's what I'm in favor for.
That would be the safest approach.
And don't put any cones or any signs up.
No, I would, that's actually doing both. That would be grinding it up.
That's the way I'm gonna support this thing, get this thing as safe as it possibly can. And you'll never reduce the safety to zero. I mean, if you have 24-foot road, you don't go to zero on the safety side, but we've got a major issue here. It needs to be resolved the best we can.
We can do that.
Sounds like the answer.
Okay. And with this one, if you did option 1, I don't believe I would have to come back next week for a separate motion for a construction zone, because actually you're making this a construction zone at that particular one, and I'll double check with Wade to see if I do need to do anything, but we can start that process.
Okay, so motion 2020-50, based upon the recommendation of the county engineer. Move to approve the county engineer's request to solicit bids for A2006C asphalt project for milling, grinding, and leveling shoulders on Old 50-75 Highway to Fauna Road. Funds to be paid from the general fund, public works asphalt line item.
And then do we have to put in there about making it a construction zone as well?
Wade, just put you on the spot. I'd like to put a construction zone up on Old Highway 50 from 75 to Fauna. If I did not have a construction project, then I was thinking that I would need a separate motion that would place it as a construction zone.
Sounds like it'd be a construction project if we approve.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
So,
We may,
Still a construction.
yeah, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I went to my throat.
We would need to do that center line striping up into that motion too.
and then the next motion would cover the center line striping.
Do it together or do it separate?
Yes, sir.
Separate.
If I make that a construction project, I'd be able to put signs out there through the winter. That's really what I'm asking. And then come spring, we would have a construction project that we bid out for the repairs of it, but at least it get us through winter. Be able to post it and sign it. If we want to add something to it, I'm sure we could just add at the very end of it, that it would be a construction zone, if you want to add that in the motion.
I thought you guys were gonna just take your sprayer and spray a white line down the center of it. Now you're.
Not the center of, on the edges. If we weren't gonna grind it like this, Bob, then that would be correct. If all we were gonna do is just do the center line striping and just put the cones out there on the edges, then I would spray that in.
But what's the difference if you're gonna make a construction zone anyway? So why can't, if you're already talking, you're gonna put cones and all this stuff out anyway? just because we're grinding the shoulders up, doesn't change that. So why can't you still go ahead and put the center line in with our group instead of going out for bids for it?
Well, we don't have the striping machine.
How come we had it if we were gonna put the cones and everything up a while ago? You said that we were just gonna take one of our sprayers and spray the center line.
No, I didn't say we'd spray the center line, I said we'd spray the edge.
Spray
The edges.
Yeah.
The edge. And the only thing that is just oil on the paint. We're just covering it up on the edge.
Oh, you're hiding the white line.
Yes, sir.
That's what he said. He said to spray the edge.
Just spray the edge.
But the white line will disappear when they grind it anyway.
On this particular case, yes. So if we do the option one, that white line goes away, we don't have to spray anything.
Okay.
Yes, sir. But the center line's still the issue as far as restriking the center line.
And that center line shouldn't cost that much, because, doing all three lines, I think it's $1,300 a mile.
About $3,000
So
is the
hopefully,
estimate.
$400-500 a mile would take care of 7 miles. It'd be, $3,000. So
3,000 is what I received, just a ballpark.
Can we just have them come in and do that, add that to the agreement when they come in and do the striping here in the near future?
The striping contract that we have is only valid for the road that's listed in the contract. Any addition to it would actually require a motion to basically approve it, but if I understand it correctly from past experience, actually coming up with a new motion, a new bidding process is the correct way of doing it. I don't believe we want to add to it.
Could do a change order.
Well, it'd have to be, I believe it has to go through the bidding process, but as I say, this is just informal bid.
For just 3?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. It's under 10. Actually, you could even take this one away if you wanted to, that motion, because as you pointed out, it's under the 10.
So we could just issue the companies come in, change order, and it's under 10.
That one, I double check, but yes, you're right. I'll double check with Wade on that one.
So back to motion 2020-50.
So adding the construction notice, I'm not sure what exactly.
A construction zone that would allow us to post and reduce the speeds.
Okay. I don't see an issue off the top of my head, and obviously put on the spot, I'd want to look into it more, but at first blush, it sounds appropriate, and then you're gonna, I'm just thinking for law enforcement purposes, if the sheriff's department or, well, it would be the sheriff's department, were patrolling that, you're talking about putting all the cones and things up, identifying, putting the reduced speed limit in case they need to enforce that. Is that what you're?
Yes, that would be the plan.
Okay. I don't see an issue with it. I might look into it a little bit more just to make sure, but off the top of my head, I don't see it as a problem.
Okay.
So I've read motion 2020-50. Wade doesn't see an issue with it.
I'll make the motion.
Fred has moved.
I'll second.
Don has seconded.
Discussion, yeah, I'm not really in agreement with that motion. I think grinding shoulders and throwing them back up is appropriate, because I think people have common sense, and just changing the speed from 55 to 45 is not going to do it, because everybody's gonna be going 55 anyway. But I'm gonna vote for it because I think it's a better compromise than what the other options is.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
So we won't do motion 2020-50 because we're going to even enter a change order.
As you pointed out, it's under the 10,000, so I don't need a motion from the commission. So, thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You
You too.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Randy, I see you.
One of my
You have
favorite
something you want
ones.
to bring to us?
Yeah, I need to check with y'all.
You're gonna be very long, Bob. I want to.
Probably 5 minutes.
We'll keep
that's
that
it.
short.
Okay.
Heard that.
Yeah, just 5 minutes. So I tell my wife, I'm trying to get supper ready. It'll be ready in 5 minutes. On Waynesville, we can work with him, once we get it posted, the signage and stuff on reduced speed. So that learning curve, because when you change the speed limit, there's that learning curve because people are used to driving at certain speeds. So instead of just going into it and issuing citations, we can do a little heavier enforcement, educate, and it doesn't take long then for words to spread on reduced speed. So that's something we can work with Wayne on. If we see an area that is a problem area that we, you know, in there, we'll try to see if he can't do increased signage in that area. Last week, we had a patrol car wrecked in a pursuit. We had a stolen vehicle here at Bar Tire, south of town, and then deputy gave pursuit and the suspect, let's say, intentionally rammed the front of his patrol vehicle and caused it to be disabled. We did end up apprehending the suspect, but the vehicle, I assume they're going to total it. It's got pretty substantial front end damage. And so I'm just wanting to check with the commission because we got a check signed at the end of last week, but when we changed the premiums and all that and raised it to 2,000 on patrol cars and 5,000 on the rest, we don't budget for these emergency replacements. So where do we pay for it from? I did go ahead when I put the check through out of the sheriff's budget, but it's one of those expenses that in the past that I think there was discussion with the commission that instead of budgeting and having a pool of money just sitting there and then not spend it and then end up spending it on something else, was to do otherwise and just, because whatever check we get will go back to county general fund when we get a settlement from the insurance company. They should have an adjuster here today or tomorrow. It's one of those cars that I think it has enough front end damage that even if they say it could be fixed, I won't put it back on the road as a patrol vehicle, because no matter how much you replace and repair parts, to me, it's never the same. And maybe that's just my way of thinking. But when you're talking somebody's life and driving it beyond what normal people drive, I don't think they're not gonna total it. I believe they are.
Is there any way to set tight, Randy, for a day or two, and just write a check for the net difference?
And we might be able to, yeah.
To me, that would be the best process.
Well, we did find an emergency replacement, and we did get a check to do that. We found a vehicle, Cromartie Ford, actually, Cromartie Chevy found us a vehicle. And so we can sit tight to see what's gonna happen on settlement with, as far as that
You know
goes.
that within a day or two, or should.
Yeah, we should have that, and then I can come back to the commission next week and tell you what the outcome was. And
You got the money in your account now.
yeah, there's money in it currently. We're covered right now.
We can swap it later.
Yeah, we can just do a journal entry later, but I just wanted to make the commission aware so when the issue comes up, because the bad part is the unit that got taken out was a unit that we had planned on rotating into our lineup as we try to pass those vehicles on that are better quality vehicles as secondary units. And it was one of those units that was the secondary unit. It was the detective's Tahoe. So he's okay.
Was the vehicle occupied when the accident happened? Did he ram it, or was the vehicle empty?
Yeah, what happened is, Garen, the detective, had gotten behind the vehicle that the guy.
I don't want to jump in.
Oh, okay, yeah, we probably had not to get into it.
We don't want to talk too much about it because it's an active situation. And
I can visit with you later, but yeah.
Since this is an emergency, couldn't that money come from equipment reserve to pay for it without any problem?
Yes.
And I'll get the final, hopefully the insurance company said, in fact, I missed a call from our insurance company a few minutes ago, but our adjuster should be here today or tomorrow. And then we can just do a journal entry, but I'll come back to the commission first before we take any final action on where the funds come from. And that way everybody's on the same page. If that's okay. But I just want to make you aware he's fine. He was injured slightly. We took him to the hospital and he had like seatbelt burns and those airbags they hit you hard. So I don't know what it is with pursuits, but
Is that what this is?
that's what that is, yes. Yes. And do we need to do that in the form of an official motion, as an emergency purchase replacement, or what?
I don't think it would hurt.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can. The actual purchase of the vehicle that we issued the check for, that way it's on record for the public.
I think since you brought it to us, we might as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm good with that. I don't have a motion written. Angie?
What's the vehicle?
It's a
2020 Chevy
Chevy
Tahoe.
Tahoe. I guess it'd be moved to authorize the purchase,
Emergency purchase of it.
emergency purchase,
Chevy Tahoe
2020 Chevy Tahoe,
from
to replace a wrecked patrol vehicle due to, as a replacement for a wrecked patrol vehicle.
from who?
It's Cromartie, isn't it?
From Cromartie Chevrolet.
I'm not sure if using the word wrecked is.
Yeah.
Because anybody can have a wrecked vehicle and it still not be disabled. I mean, my understanding is the vehicle's disabled.
No, it's disabled.
If it's disabled, then there's an imminent need to have it replaced.
Yeah, it's out of service.
The amount of,
What is it, 39,
253.
253. Right now is a bad time to be looking for patrol cars because they're switching from 2020s to the 21s. And this Cromartie done a great job, I'll tell you. They got on and checked, and they found one up in Platte City, Missouri. And so I appreciate their efforts and what they did for us.
And Randy, while the discussion is going on, are there other patrol vehicles that could have been utilized for, in place of this one? I'm just, because that'll be the next question that somebody will have. So,
No, yes and no. Temporarily, on a short-term basis, yeah, we put him in a regular patrol car. But because he's the detective, he carries a lot of different equipment that just can't, sit in a trunk and be exposed. So he carries equipment and stuff. Plus, being unmarked, we'll just leave it at that. It's an unmarked unit. The detective drives an unmarked unit for obvious reasons sometimes. And so we don't have any other unmarked units sitting around.
so there's a reason why he needs that particular type of,
Yes.
of vehicle.
Yeah.
He can't just have a regular marked patrol unit.
Right, that is correct. And we did search around, Cromartie did search around to see if there was anything else available, either Explorers or whatever. And we checked with Dodge. They did have some Durangos, but they weren't. Durangos are a smaller, compactor. We got one that we're experimenting with to see how it holds up patrol-wise, but I don't think it would make a good detective's vehicle.
So then the next question, I'm just thinking, when I'm sitting in my taxpayer seat.
Okay.
So without knowing whether the insurance company is going to total the current vehicle, one might ask, is they're not jumping the gun to go ahead and replace it? So I'm just trying to have all the questions answered now so that could this wait a week, or is there a reason why it needs to be done right now?
From my perspective, that vehicle, even if they say it can be repaired and it's $15,000, I have no doubt it's gonna be $10,000-$15,000 in my mind, is that with the substantial front end damage, like I told you guys earlier, to me, it can't go back on the road as an emergency vehicle. You can replace parts and pieces, but when it's mechanical parts, superficial cosmetic stuff is one thing, but it got into the engine and front end, and you start getting into that, then I don't put them back on the road just because it's not worth somebody's life to cut corners. Could it serve in a secondary capacity? Maybe somewhere else, and that may solve some of our problems where we were gonna rotate it over in a non-emergency vehicle capacity. The county would still be able to utilize it if they did repair it. There would be probably some use for it
What's
elsewhere.
the age and mileage on that vehicle?
It's a 2015 Tahoe, and it has a little over 90,000 miles on it.
So based on what you did here recently, it was getting towards the top end of its useful life for law enforcement.
It was like I told earlier, it was one of the vehicles that was due to be rotated out and go into a secondary capacity next year. And once they get over 100,000 miles, which you'll have, we start trying to wean those things out. The better ones, we try to keep and use them in secondary capacities. The bad ones, we, quite frankly, just try to get rid of them. And we're there at that point. It was one of the vehicles to be gotten rid of. So that was gonna rotate out. So it's just timing stinks, but these things can be helped. And it was through no actions of the detective. I'll just leave it at that. It's unfortunate, but I think given the circumstances, it's a replacement that we can't sit here and ask these people to hold on to these cars, what view there are out there, and just hold on to them, because I don't know what our insurance company is gonna do.
And there will be an additional expense to outfit the replacement vehicle with law enforcement, emergency lights and other radios and those type of things.
If they total it, that cost is included in our insurance due to the damage and stuff. They will, one of two ways. If like the lights in the front end that were damaged and torn up, they'll pay to replace those. Lights and equipment that's serviceable, they'll pay to have that equipment taken out, cleaned, checked out, and then reinstalled. That's part of our insurance.
I'm just trying to think of questions that people might have, so might as well answer them here.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. These are things that are in my mind that I don't think about. It's just, I know I've got to do these things and stuff. So, yeah, it's been a lot of years since we wrecked a car that bad. And back then, at least we still have the same insurance, EMC, and they're very good to work with. And like I did talk to the claims specialist Thursday or Friday, I think it was Friday evening, and he was pretty confident he was going to get an adjuster here today or tomorrow. And I did get to have a good conversation with him about the same concerns that we're talking about here today. So.
Anybody have anything else?
So, do you have a motion?
Yes. Move to approve the emergency purchase of a 2020 Chevy Tahoe as a replacement for a disabled patrol vehicle from Cromartie Chevrolet in the amount of $39,253. Funds to come from the equipment reserve fund.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
I'll come back next week and give you guys an update on where we're at on the claim and everything and what they're gonna do, so. Thank you, guys.
Did your 5 minutes, Randy.
Yeah.
Huh?
You missed your 5 minutes.
I know, it wasn't my fault.
Wade, we'll blame on Wade.
We'll blame it on Wade.
So, roundtable. Wade, have anything?
So the first thing I'll talk about, because I think it's a weekly update the board needs to hear, and it's in reference to the jail. I won't go over the financial figures because I think that's pretty self-evident at this point, but currently we have 12 inmates in Anderson County, and right now there's going to be a move to shuffle 6 more who are in the Coffee County Jail outside the Coffee County Jail because unfortunately in the world of the courtroom and procedure and dealing with allegations of criminal conduct, there's people who don't show up for jail and they have, or not for jail, for court, and they have outstanding warrants. So to deal with those people, we just need to have more space. And I think as has been mentioned previously, my understanding, and the sheriff can correct me or undersheriff, there are more females, right? Presently, we have more females in custody than we do males, which is, I think, historically not been the case. Usually you have many more males than females, and I don't know how to explain that other than we just have more females at this point. So in the last 7 days, there have been 7 bookings into the county jail. And one of the themes that people who I run into outside of the courthouse ask me, well, why are these people in jail? Do they need to be in jail? And I can tell you, in my opinion, the people who are in jail need to be in jail. And the people who don't need to be in jail don't. And law enforcement uses quite a bit of discretion in issuing citations and not having people in jail, booked into jail. And then in other cases, people get booked into jail and they're immediately given a low bond. They make that bond and then they're released in a fairly timely fashion. So I don't know if there's any questions in relation to that. I just think it's an ongoing conversation that not only does the board need to be aware about, but the public needs to be aware about in reference to the dialogue that is and will be occurring in more substantial form about the new jail. So, questions?
Not for me.
And I'm not sure if there's a revision to the promissory note. Did that get passed out? Okay. So there's a revision to the promissory note with the hospital based on what happened, forgiving half of the loan amount, and then the hospital was wanting that to be formalized. So I did
You want me to go make copies?
I put together a second agreement to modify promissory note that references, I guess there was a previous revision after the original note. The original note is dated July 27, 2015. And then in July of 2018, there was a modification. And then there's another modification that will reference back to June 22nd, 2020, when the board currently, or I guess this year, made a modification. So that just needs to be approved by this board, but not signed, so it can be sent to the hospital board for their review. And then after they review it and see that it meets their approval, they would sign it and then send it back to this board for review and signature, is in my mind how that should work. So I revised not only the promissory note, but I also revised the payment schedule. And if you'll recall, at that June meeting, payment was deferred until May of 2022. So I restart the payment schedule in May of 2022, as was reflected in that June 22nd, 2020 board meeting. And then the end date originally has always been June 3rd, 2026, so I kept that. So if that's something you want to deal with today, my idea would be you at least review it, approve it, at least in form, so it can go to the hospital, and then we can send it to the hospital so that at their next board meeting, they can look at it, review it, and sign it, so this can get taken care of and move forward.
You need some copies made? Or do you have copies?
I don't.
When's the hospital board meet? What day? is it?
Third or fourth Monday.
Third or fourth.
Monday.
So could be coming up next Monday or the week following Monday.
Correct. And that's why I wanted to bring it before you today, so that it can be dealt with and addressed. Just a preview of what's coming. A citizen dropped off with me a request for fence viewing, so I probably need to get that on the agenda and then start moving through that formal process. I have the paperwork, I'll turn that in to Angie so that that process can get initiated, and then we'll have to have a fence viewing at some point here in the near future. And the last thing, I'm not going to request any executive sessions. I don't like doing it, but sometimes it happens out of necessity. But I do have a quote. And the quote for today is by Woodrow Wilson, former president, and it's in an address entitled Abraham Lincoln, a man of the people, from, I think it's in 1909. And I think it's somewhat relevant to what we're dealing with here. Some of it will apply, some of it may not. But if you listen to the words and apply it locally, I think you'll hear why I'm reading it today. A great nation is not led by a man who simply repeats the talk of the street corners or the opinions of the newspapers. A nation is led by a man who hears more than those things, or who, rather hearing those things, understands them better, unites them, puts them into a common meaning, speaks not the rumors of the street, but a new principle for a new age, a man in whose ears the voice of the nation do not sound like the accidental or discordant notes that come from the voice of a mob, but concurrently and concordant like the united voices of a chorus, whose many meanings spoken by melodious tongues unite his understanding in a single meaning and reveal to him a single vision, so that he can speak what no man else knows, the common meaning of the common voice. Such is the man who leads a great, free, democratic nation. We, especially more now than ever, not only in this government, but in this county, in this nation, need to unite, because everybody's not going to agree on how you get there, but we need to be united in our approach. And as it references, great nation is not led by a man who simply repeats the talk of street corners or the opinions of newspapers. There's all kinds of versions and stories out there. I think we're each responsible for investigating and making our own independent determinations on what's out there. And if we don't, I'm not sure that's the way to move forward. So. Any questions?
Thank you. No. Thank you.
I do not have anything today.
Tim?
I don't have anything.
I'm fine.
I would like to have a 20-minute executive session with the commission to discuss candidates for economic development. I need a motion to go into executive session for 20 minutes with the commission. To discuss that. Which I can wait till after we read this, if you wish. Thanks, Don. Do you have anything for roundtable, Don?
Fred's 9 o'clock, 5 board meetings canceled tomorrow. And you, Fred, you have a planning board meeting on Wednesday. That's it.
Donna, I'll have you in tomorrow night.
Oh, okay. Will that be there, or are you gonna do it virtual?
Kind of both.
Okay.
I'm gonna go there to use their computer and be on Zoom as my internet goes like.
Do you have a second on that executive session?
No, we got tied up in this. Sorry. So again, we can either look this over and approve this, or wait, send forward and wait on that, or we can come back and take care of it.
I'll second your motion.
Okay. I've moved, Fred is seconded, excuse me, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We'll go in at 10:50.
How long?
20 minutes. Come back at 11:10. That was easy.
Plugging along. Plugging along. That's all we do.
Got all the guy can do.
Moving forward. Forward momentum.
Yeah, one step at a time.
Yes, sir.
It's been a rough couple of weeks for us at the sheriff's office.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Hey, Wade.
Now. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's just a matter
I
of
don't know if I sent this to you,
option.
if you need a motion or option,
Right here.
if that was
Tear that
sufficient.
maybe add on to it, whatever, tied in.
Well-
Piece that was a key into it or changes. That key is, you know, we need his office, we got people in corners and hallways too, his office is growing. And so
Look at that.
that was another consideration.
Put it in the house.
Sometimes we look at maybe a, like, law enforcement center that would tie the courts, the jail, and prosecutor all into one place and build it away from the school, away from the courthouse. maybe out on the edge of town somewhere accessible. So that's another option I want to look at. And then, or just, like I said, stay here, tear down, build onto it. Yeah, yeah. No, and depending on, yeah, whatever decision, either way, you know, you're looking at probably 2 to 3 years. Yeah, yeah, and we're trying, that's one thing that's upstairs, with the Greenway that's gonna be, is we're trying to flip the jail from what was happening traditionally, male inmates, and where we have the males and the females. But it's such a part of the females that we're gonna flip it. Move the females down here and pack them in, ship some more males out, and then that'll open up some more into the jail, which then will let us accommodate any new incoming and our work release. And right now, what we're doing is when somebody gets arrested and comes in, and they're not going to bond, we have to, for lack of a better word, isolate them for 72 hours to make sure they don't show any signs of code or anything like that before we can put them into general pod. So that's taking up a cell by itself, and.
Well, last 7 days, you brought in 7 people. So
Yeah.
that's 72 hours per person.
Yeah, that's 7 people that haven't bonded.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even, you know, and that's one thing about it is the courts in a way, they got really good. We're able to move a lot of folks out and let them bond and help try to do what we can, but the ones that are in jail are either
They need to be there.
they need to be there, yeah, they're the ones that either fail to appear or they're felonies. I don't know, we really got anybody in jail in this community, I think it's all felony stuff. And sentences that are serving sentences now. And we got work release, guy that's doing work release. Working for the guy from up on Repo, I can't remember the guy's name. He does like handyman. His wife works over at Lyon County Jail. I can't remember the name of this, it's just a, you know, this guy and a couple of people, and they do small jobs.
Inside work.
Yeah, you know, and secondary jobs. What's up?
Just got the phone with
Put you in the nose.
Got the phone with Anderson County, they can't take any.
They can't take anymore.
He said he's actually too overweight. Hold.
Okay, let's go.
Get you a shipping container and send it out to the parking lot.
Never thought about that. You just take a torch and cut
Just
little
stack 'em.
holes in
Yeah.
the bars in and stack them.
Yeah, all you need to heater, it's not gonna get hot enough around
It
here.
ain't gonna get cold, nah, we'll be fine.
Perfect. So you can just stack them super cubes, they can put 2 people in each one of them super cubes.
That's
One
right.
of them just split it in half. Problem solved.
See, there you go. May not be constitutional, but you know, hey,
Constitution's constitution.
Hey, it's dry.
it's a place to sleep. Hopefully we ship some more of those Anderson County. So,
There's two over there. What about how?
that's where we at right now. I don't know, but for some reason my doesn't want to. Well.
Something about same district.
Oh, well, Zoom for appearances or whatever, but yeah, Allen County Jail, they do the same thing, but they have to be there. Sure. Oh, Zoom is all it is. Call Allen County and ask them first if they can take some. And 2 is if we bring some over, if they have to appear, can they appear from the jail over there via Zoom?
And I know they're doing.
Yeah, because they're doing them, okay? If that doesn't work, I'll be up there for a living. We're getting that, I think we're at LMNOP.
I think distance wise,
Allen.
they're cheaper, they charge $22 a day for energy for
Allen
for some reason, the jurisdictional.
Judicial district and stuff, so. But it is what it is, but we got a couple
Well, I got a break for about 20 minutes, so. Yeah, I was on the 2014 Dodge Ram.
Scheduled for deportation, once I get the lab results.
Business card, mm-hmm.
But it doesn't hurt.
That's fine. Yeah, there's a fax, or there's an email there, or whatever. Right, right. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I got it Friday, I just hadn't had a chance to do anything with it today.
Well, we can't get to him for a couple of weeks, we're gonna be some real fast. But we, you don't have to, like, we already up. Well, we came on a wheel, we tried to call all the words.
You can't get me lying. I don't remember, Brian. I'm gonna say we're probably getting pretty damn close. I don't think I've purchased, it's been a couple of years since I purchased any trailer. Well, I probably did it outright, but, I think the last thing I probably financed was a couple pneumatic tanks, probably. Over and on. Yeah, I bought one here just recently that we paid by the pay cash for, and I put you on the lien, I think. Yeah, I think I put you on the lien for that, shit, I can't remember. I know I did, I know I should have done it on one, and I forgot, and I put it on the other one that we paid cash for. Mm-hmm. Cool. 2.9. And the funny, we got something new to come out. They gave us a warranty of that. And what you got your remainder bumper to bumper, which is 36,000, so 6,000 miles bumper to bumper through the factory. Well, they've got an insurance deal or a warranty deal that will take that to 160,000 miles of zero, of cost to the individual zero. And then after that, from 160,000 miles to life, as long as we own that vehicle, no matter what happens, bumper to bumper, it's $100 a month. Yeah, it's fine. But I mean, hell, transmissions are 6,000-7,000. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, this is a vehicle you just own for the rest of your life. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's got 500,000 miles on it or not. If you blow the motor, they'll fix it, they'll replace it. And it costs you $100. Do what? Well, it was a Ford, but it was through a dealership. And, they was over at Payable, the dealership, to see the business card. And, but it was a Ram dealership that had Ford. They said they sell that type policy, every vehicle they sell. They said they don't sell vehicles. Business. Exactly. Mm-hmm. I guess the guy that started this. Mm-hmm. Yep, and they said even if they have a dispute, this guy that you got the business card on, he said he knows the guy personally that started this company. He lives in a lake that are over on Park. He said he winds up calling them, if there's a rebuttal or something about it, call that guy, and he'll call the guy that started it, and they'll wind up waiving it. They'll just go ahead and pay it and go on. So go to any certified, Chevy, Dodge, Ford dealership, and they have to service that vehicle. And they have to take it along. Yeah, I thought that was pretty decent deal. And now we'll be getting called from age, over an age of warranty being expired.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Wasting my time, I'll waste yours. Exactly. Okay, appreciate it, man. Bye. Okay. Okay. Yeah, right. Probably make it go.
It's so.
Really? Right, all the other newcomers. Oh, yeah, it's gonna be fun. I was at this meeting when they forgave 50%. That was me that I grew up on, because of the newspaper.
Oh.
50 highway.
Oh, what was that? I don't remember.
Oh, and they actually blamed the road crumbling on our trucks coming from Melbourne, from the Aquarium to Melbourne. Well, Wayne or the newspaper did. I think it was Wayne. They didn't blame that. So I come out of the big phone.
There's a lot of things that.
Gotta read between the lines. That's just no different when we get shut down and put on TV, so. About 3/4 wrong and a quarter right or whatever. Come on November, it better go the way I want it to, or I might be a Mexican. I'm not going to Mexico. Sell all my shit for south.
Yeah. We have to buy it.
Well, we know it'll be over with.
On base downtown.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have no trouble with it, because they're really gonna want to shut Good luck. Good luck finding it. I told Cheryl, if my house is on fire, you better not be running into it, you better be running the hell away from it, because it's gonna go. Bring it, that's what I say. I'll be in jail. I'll set a tree for hours and shoot a deer. Imagine what I'll do if you still one of them nasty guys. Yeah, that deer's just eating my corn, this guy's burning my shit down. Might sit there 24 hours a day.
So when was your?
Actually, it starts this week.
I know Aaron Jones has been taking his now.
Yeah, they muzzle loader, use muzzle loader or the national season. I think somebody shot it. Who was it? Was it Somebody shot one. I seen it on Facebook yesterday morning or something. That first bill or something like that. That's cool, that's good. That's good. There needs to be more shit like that. Instead of sitting inside, doing that number. I got an alert on my phone. Last week I had an hour and 52 minutes of downtime on my phone. And I'd hate to see what some of these kids are, you know, I mean, that was basically an hour and 52 minutes what I spent, you know, social media crap. That's not bad in 7 days. But I'm sure there's kids that be 70%, you know, of their. It has. And I've said it for a long time. This is how the other party is behind a lot of that. Well, you know it is. Look at Facebook. You got guys, people sitting at lunch or supper, texting each other, so talking across the day. I'm gonna hit them on if you don't have that for phone. And you just look around, you got a team, you look around and see how many people are saying. It is too, it is. The parents are doing the same thing. You know, you see the parents got their phone, well, how the kids got their phone? There's nowhere, we have lost all grips of coming together and being a family nowadays. It's just, it's so technical. And it's sickening. It's just sickening, which we try to sit down with absolutely no phones, no TV, just sit down and visit about the day, whatever. And now that my wife doesn't work in mom, we have something to visit, you know, so it has helped us too. And so, you know, how your day, how your, you know, you can have your hour-long bitch session of how your day was, you know. You know, that's helping with the kids and sitting at the farm. I had lunch with her yesterday and visited with her. She's a pain in the ass, you know. You know, she said, I need to talk to you. I'm like, okay, what do you need to talk about? Oh, just like, oh, okay. She's like, so you have a lot of good advice. You know, a lot of good advice. I'm like, yeah. A lot of times my good advice falls on deaf ears. I said, it's what you do with my advice. She didn't want to hear that. But you ask, I'm gonna give you my advice. You might not like it, but, you know, what dad thinks is probably the right way to go. So, yeah, she's like 24 something. Yeah, yeah, and she's got some investment, she puts money in, she's trying to invest in her country. I told her, I said, because more likely, the retirement isn't gonna be there for you, you know, social security. You've got to get that. So I kind of showed both of them, like, the room I am now, makes a big difference. 30, 40 years down the road, you know, made them smart on making your money work for you instead of you working for the money. So that's something. Yeah. And she's at the hospital, so she's got caregivers there. And she works in Blueston, and Blueston has it. So, I mean, like 401k, she puts 10 people in. I told her, so, you know, maybe you could drop in Blueston and put more in and on your caregivers. Yeah, whatever one's in there. I think she's a secretary for cardiology. She's so she really enjoys it. And I told her, I said, you know, I know my friend Ryan works in the administration side, and he's always looking out for people to cover shifts. I told him, I said, why don't you drop your Candlewood and your Blues and try to pick up extra shifts at the hospital? You gotta pay you more money. Plus, you put more in your benefits. He said, well, I don't want to go that way because they don't want us working more than 40 hours in the hospital. Oh, damn doctors work 80 hours a week. Why the hell can't everybody else? You know, so I don't know, we'll see. She's got a good head on her. She just uses it. That's the biggest. Well, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Now, my boy, on the other hand, he's in the shop and loving to make money and trying to follow me around as much as possible. He's just graduated this last year, so I'm trying to get him to get a CDL and go learn and drive truck, go a little truck. Get a lot more respectful, see what they do with every day. But he's learning a lot of respect working in the shop and working on your trucks that you're driving. Hopefully one of these days, me and Mom can fly out and fly for you. Go to Arizona in the winter, Texas in the winter, make their way when it gets hot, till we see snowflakes and stop, and then keep going. When they come back there, or snowflakes move south. I'm gonna enjoy 20 or 30 years instead of 10 or 15 years.
Did you reread this way?
I've read it several times.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
That doesn't mean that when I read it, I don't miss it.
Okay, I just wondered if you, because there's a lot of things in there that I don't understand, but we use a lot of words that.
That is part of the big board would be beyond me, Paul.
Does this mean on the 50th payment, we have to give them 87 cents back?
Part of the agreement.
Okay.
Or they just don't pay the 87 cents. I thought it was pretty good to get it narrowed down to 87 cents. And it's color coded.
So we're back looking over the promissory note for the hospital. I haven't seen anything. Does anybody else have it? I see no reason why we couldn't forward it to them, let them to look it over.
So it references the original promissory note from July 5th, 2018, which I had mentioned earlier. And that was for the original loan of $3.4 million, and that was referenced in the original attachment or exhibit, which was A1, and I think that can be located if needed. And then it was modified. Actually, I take that back. I said July 5th, 2018. That was the first modification. The original note was July 25th, 2015, and that's 3.4. And the payment schedule was in exhibit A1. And then it was modified by the board on July 5th, 2018. And I think all that did was change the payment schedule. And then in paragraph 3 of what I've handed you, I referenced the original note, and there's a footnote that says the lender may delay or forego enforcing any of its rights or remedies under this note without losing them, and that all such parties agree lender may renew, extend repeatedly, and for any length of time or modify this loan. And to me, that wording and those details are what's important and what allows the board to do what's being done, but it has to be by agreement of the parties. So then in paragraph 4, again, I referenced that same paragraph in the original note and referenced that Exhibit A2, which was in effect at that time, is now being replaced with Exhibit A3, which you have in front of you, which changes the payment schedule to start May 3rd, 2022, with a new payment amount and a new balance as set by the board on June 22nd, 2020, in which the board forgave 1/2 of the amount that was due and owing at the time, which is $3,010,416.63, and 1/2 of that is $1,505,416.63. So that's the new figure. That's the figure we're starting over with in Exhibit A3. And that, in essence, is the sum and substance of what my understanding was occurred on June 22nd, 2020, other than deferring the next payment until 2022. And then in 2022, the hospital can come back before the board and address the board again on how to proceed from there, but this at least covers things between now and then. And Exhibit A3, I added some color to sort of demonstrate what the differences are, payment numbers. We now have 50 payments ending June 3rd, 2026. A new payment amount. Originally, the payment amount was $35,416.67 monthly, at least under the new design. It's $30,108.35 starting May 3rd, 2022, ending June 3rd, 2026 at payment number 50. And that gets us down to 87 cents over, which is about as close as I could get it under the circumstances, but I think it demonstrates the point. So my suggestion would be, unless there's any questions, these two documents be forwarded to the hospital so their board can have a discussion, review, determine whether they agree with the provisions, what this modification entails. If they don't, they can send it back and we can work on it from there. If it does, they sign it, it gets sent back to the board for review and signature at a later date. So,
you put that in motion, or?
I don't think that needs to be in a motion right now.
To me, this is what we agreed to.
Yes.
Back 3 months ago or whatever it was, when
June 22nd.
I'm fine with it as long as you're fine with it. That's what looks like you've been doing your job.
So, any other questions about it? Wording, why there's certain words there, why there's certain words that are not there?
Just like the ones I use this time.
no, we know better than that. So.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
Well, I think I would like to make a motion to have Rhonda contact candidate number 2 for another interview on the economic development side.
All second.
I wonder if we could approach this in a different way, since each of us has a little bit of different expectations, I think. If when we do this, if we ask that candidate to come with a outline of a plan that they would think they would be able to pursue if they were chosen. And then we could look at that and see how we felt about their plan. I don't know, is that a decent idea or not? I don't know.
Well, I guess in all fairness, we do that for one, we ought to do that for two.
That's what I say, if we're gonna do that for one, we should need to go back and do it for the other one also. Where we give them both the same equal opportunity.
But we didn't ask for a second interview with candidate number one.
True, but we kind of, I don't know, I look at it as changing the game somewhat.
Okay.
I mean, that's just my opinion, I mean,
That's fine, I just thought to get the ball rolling, it might be easier to get their perspective rather than them assimilating 5 perspectives coming at them. That's what I was thinking, it might be easier to get the plan in motion. But maybe not, it's just an idea.
yeah, no, it's not a bad one, just, like I say, felt like I was changing the game just a little bit, I didn't know. Any more discussion? I moved, Tim seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Wants to come back for another interview is what you're saying?
Mhm. Well, Rhonda contact the individual, I should say. All opposed? Motion passes.
I'm okay for the interview.
Okay, motion passes 5-0.
Well, I'll do that day.
Anybody else have anything else? Not, then I guess we can adjourn this meeting at 11:22.
I want to do something.